Ahoy friends, welcome to Building the Alpha Dory. I'm Dan, and this is a project to build a Chamberlain racing dory from John Gardner's The Dory Book, illustrations by Sam Manning. Today we're going to be out in the shop and hopefully finish riveting the last of the planking. We've got 2 more stations along the shear strike on the port side to rivet up, and then the boat is pretty much put together. So yeah, let's get out into the shop and get banging some rivets. Yeah, so we got out the ice boat yesterday, and it's pretty much ready to go under the tarp to keep the ice and snow off it if we do get some, but hopefully sometime this coming week or possibly next weekend we'll get out on one of our local lakes or ponds with that. So anyway, yeah, here we are. Bit of riveting to do. Yeah, so as the boat gets bigger, you got less and less room in the shop. Even when the frames are up, you can stand between the frames easy enough. It's just as the planks go on. As the planks go on, there's less and less actual floor space available in the shop. Now on the plus side, you can start stashing stuff under the bilges of the boat. So I've got the ice boat mast and sails on the floor on the other side of the boat, under the boat. Myself. I'll put in 10 of these rivets. this is it. I can tell this is the backing block that I had indoors on the heater because it's not freezing my hand when I pick it up. Let's see how those go. Ooh, a little bit chilly out here still. Haven't let the little kerosene heater just because it's not that bad out here, but also I think I'm just going to be out here for just these rivets. So. Yeah, so I've been looking a bit more at potential designs for a camping cover, and so the idea at the moment, which I think is going to work the best, is a good size sort of canvas A-shaped tent that goes over that goes over top of the boom, full length of the boom, and then can be folded back in good weather to go as far back as you want it to go. The other option is some sort of a similar A-frame tent, A-shaped tent, gunnel to gunnel, and associated with the boom, but under the boom. Now, the one benefit of that is if you're sailing and the sail's wet and whatever, you go and set up the tent, then you don't have a wet sail in the tent with you. So there's that to weigh against the ease of setting it up. You just flop it over the boom if the boom is under the tent. So the ease of setting it up. Over the boom, which is really convenient. Then you've got the boom there holding the canvas up, and all you do is just flop the canvas down along the top of the boom and then secure it at the gunnels. Whereas if you hang the canvas under the boom, then you've got to come up with some sort of fastening to attach the canvas to the boom in a couple places, or like a ridge line or something that you would tension on the boom, and it's just like it starts getting really finicky as to what it's going to take to, and then you still have to secure the tent at the gunnels. So the thinking is to go over the top of the boom, and then you'd have a kind of a bivy sack, like a tiny tent that you'd have your sleeping bag in, and there'd be room for two of those on this sleeping platform that would be back in this section of the boat. And so that way, and then there'd be storage either side of the centerboard trunk for all the gear, and the actual sleeping platform would set up over what is like the sailing area of the boat that's used for sailing, and then it could hang out over this transom area. So like you could roll it back on a good day, or you could roll it all the way down so it would close in the transom as well. And then that way you could set up like a little stove on the aft seat there, the little cuddy seat. And you could cook on board if you had to with a little stove, and roll the tent back so that you weren't cooking in the tent. So if you were cooking something like soup or whatever, you wouldn't be steaming up inside of the tent. So there's a couple. I think that's probably, and then the bivy sack. It's kind of a plus and a minus, because it's like a second layer of protection, which is a big plus. So the tent you set up doesn't have to be like an airtight thing. It basically keeps the rain off, keeps the wind out, and kind of gives you a semi-dry area to set up all your other stuff. set up all your dry stuff, and that would be like, you know, the bivy bag and all, which would be a warm, dry spot to sleep. And those bivy tents usually also include bug netting, which if you didn't have that on your bivy sack, then you'd need bug netting on the bigger tent, which would drastically complicate the big tent setup. Because all of a sudden you're not just trying to keep rain out, which is pretty much a gravity thing, you know, as long as you've got the tent down over the whatever you want to keep dry, it's going to keep the rain out. But then if you're trying to keep bugs out, midges or mosquitoes, then you're trying to close up every single little opening and crevice with some sort of relatively fragile, easily ripped mosquito netting, and that just becomes a total. And then you don't want the mosquito netting all the time, so you've got to have an opening through that. And the mosquito netting isn't waterproof, so you need the waterproof layer as well. So yeah, it just complicates any sort of a tent setup, you know, tenfold. So now the negative to that is if you want to get away from any sort of, you know, bugs or mosquitoes that are coming out, then you kind of got to get in your little bivy bag, because, you know, the big tent won't have you know, per se a mesh. Now you could have like some sort of a bug net that you could just throw over whatever opening is in the tent, and just hope for the best, and then get in your bivy sack if mosquitoes or whatever drove you in there. But I think it's probably, you know, just an extra level of complexity that, you know, you'd hope it wouldn't come to that, as far as you know, you probably don't even want to be sailing at the point that the bugs are so bad you can't get away from them. And that does happen, you know, around dusk in some areas, like out at Isle of Shoals. You definitely need some way of getting away from the bugs. Whether that's, you know, clothing with a, you know, like a head, whether that's clothing with a sort of mesh hat, or whether it's you know, a tent, like I was saying, a little bivy bag or something, or like a screen tent setup, which is kind of the most cumbersome option. But you definitely need some way to get away from the bugs at you know, if you're out at Isle of Shoals at dusk or whatever, because yeah, you're going to be really unhappy for about a 45-minute hour period while the mosquitoes are really swarming, and then they go away, you know. Like 10 o'clock, I'd be out on the deck, just sitting out there watching the stars. But you didn't want to be out there at 9 or 9:30. You get carried away by the mosquitoes. Yeah, so it turns out I still hadn't gotten around to doing that response video to the Acorn to Arabella group. Yeah, think I may have mentioned that in a previous video that I'd been out to help Steve down at cut up some oak out there. This was back 2020 during the COVID stuff and whatnot. I had about 2 months off from work, so after quarantining for however many days and making sure I was COVID free, I went out and helped him saw some wood, which is where I got the Granby oak. That's in the bow of this boat. Yeah, but anyway, so I've been talking about doing one of these reaction videos to him and Harold's GAM over at Burnham's yard. Vis-a-vis their head sail set up on the Arabella, which is basically if you haven't seen it, it's basically a 2/3 scale Atkin 2/3 scale Colin Archer rescue boat. So, he'd been trying to figure out what he wanted to do with the head sails, and I guess someone on his channel got into his comment section and started blowing it up about, they should put some sort of a roller reefing system on, which, Harold definitely raised his eyebrows at. He's definitely a hanked-on jib type of guy. And, that's what I've gone with in Centennial as well. And like I say, he made the sails for it, so... and it's tough to beat the hanked-on jib for the reliability of, it's either up or it's down or it's off. And you decide. You do it one way, and then no matter what I suppose if you had the jib up and the line, the jib halyard chafed through, then I suppose the jib would come down, but when the jib is down, it's down, it's not going anywhere. Whereas with these roller reefers, they're famous for either a line chafes through or a little corner of the jib catches the wind and just overpowers the drum, and the wind will pull that jib out, and then you get into trouble, whether you're at sea in bad weather or whether the boat is unattended on a mooring. I'm not sure which situation is worse, but either one isn't good. So, I've been of the opinion that you should kind of go with a hybrid model. And I guess he was saying there's some concern about going out on the bowsprit in bad weather to take the jibs down or whatever, and that's why they were thinking roller reefing. But one of my suggestions was going to be something to do with one of these reefing bowsprits. So we'll see if I get around to making the video or not, but it's kind of an interesting project they've got going there. And it doesn't seem like there'd be an awful lot of additional work involved in making a reefing bowsprit as opposed to the sort of typical stationary fixed bowsprit, which is what Atkins called for in his plans. Oh yeah, like I was saying, that would be definitely in keeping with Colin Archer, because all of his boats, all of his rescue boats and his pilot boats all carry those reeving bowsprits that allow the bowsprit to either be run out, and then there's a bobstay that's tensioned with blocks and a line, and then the jib is basically run out on a forestay, but it's on a ring on the bowsprit, and the ring goes out to a block and pulley system. So that's how you basically tension the forestay, by running it out on a ring along the bowsprit, and then and then the jib is set on that. And the jib's hanked on when the ring is run out, so you can basically douse the jib either out on the bowsprit, or you can douse the jib and bring the ring in, and then bring the whole bowsprit in if you'd like, and that way you've got you never have to leave the deck of the boat. It can all be done from on deck up in the before the mast, and so it's kind of a little bit of additional complexity, but then you got the best of both worlds as far as you've got a jib that can be doused from on deck, but you've also got a hanked on jib, so that if something happens nothing can happen to the roller reefing system, because there is none. And also, if you get into rough weather or even icing conditions where it would be pretty much impossible to either roll or unroll a roller reefing jib, then you've got a hanked on sail, so that you'd be able to at least break it out of the ice and get it down or get it up, depending on what you wanted or needed to do. And I guess I had heard something about these Acorn to Arabella folks talking about, I don't know if they said high latitudes or what it was, but they're talking about maybe heading north with the boat at some point. So, ice is definitely a concern, as well as snow, and then also, I guess, in high latitudes there's a lot of calm weather as well. So it's either really blowing a gale or there's almost no wind, super light airs. Nice thing about a alpha dory in those sort of conditions is if you do get into those light airs, you just run out the oars and you've got pretty much just as good a boat as when the wind's up. And you get an excellent rowboat as well. So if you were doing short trips in high latitudes, you'd almost be better off in one of these things, where you could, if you had to, you could even pull it over or slide it over an ice floe. And it's definitely fairly seaworthy craft, so keep you drier than most. And with a little bit of auxiliary propulsion, really have some cruising range. more rivets here. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, I've got 10 rivets and 10 rivet holes, so that worked out pretty good. Oh no, I've got 12 rivets and 10 rivet holes. So. Oh, I've got another rivet in the beam here if I need it. So 2 rivets left over, and that's the boat riveted. Thanks for dropping by Building the Alpha Dory. Massive thank you to everyone who's liked, subscribed, and supported the channel. Feel free to leave any questions or comments, opinions down in the comment section, and we'll look forward to seeing you next video. See ya. Bye.